Hey everyone, it's Ryan1940. Today we're on Enigma's Cold War server once more on the Huey, and this is the Battle of Kutaisi. It was filmed last Wednesday, January 5th, and I was lucky enough to be a part of the final hour of combat. This current campaign, number 5, has been a tremendous back and forth between red and blue forces. Today we are going to contribute what we can in our Huey, and hopefully get some troops to the busy front line. Some of you may recall in my last video titled Huey vs. Hein that it was filmed on New Year's Eve, and at that point blue forces were down to a handful of sectors. Ultimately, blue forces will push the red forces back in a dramatic way, and once again there will be a reversal in momentum, and this battle captures some of that red force momentum back westward. I'm putting this video together a week after the fact, and since then red will have pushed the map almost to a blue defeat. But once more, as of Thursday, January 13th, they're about 5 sectors away from how the map was during this battle. When I logged in for this flight, I saw I had about 50 minutes before the server would reset. This limited my option and time available on the front line. When we look at the map, we see our travel distance is going to be about 30 nautical miles one way. This will take about 15-20 minutes to reach. I always make troop landings a priority because it's guaranteed you'll get 4 ground unit kills. Typically after dropping off infantry I'll spend some time to disrupt enemy helicopters, but with the heavy enemy aircraft presence around Kutaisi, my game plan is to pick up the CSAR cases for a few minutes, then egress. The stars on the map indicate where we make our pickups before running back to Sanaki. This clip demonstrates just how many SAR cases are active on the front line. You'll see some of that smoke disappear and then be reminded that there are tons of downed pilots where their smoke has already expired. As the battle raged on, tons of strike aircraft and fighter aircraft would be lost in combat. Here we have 2 unlucky A-10s getting mauled by a single MiG-21. Scenes like this would play out over and over again throughout the hour. Rotary wing aircraft would fare no better. The red swarms of helicopters were very active that night along the front lines. This Mi-8 goes down, but would ultimately be avenged by his wingman. Further along the front, Heinz would attack ground units while being right under the major air battles playing out, putting them in the perfect position for speedy combat search and rescue pickups. The entire time we make our way to the landing zone, I'm constantly looking around outside the cockpit and keeping track of all the dogfighting going off in the distance. For the most part, I'm keeping the aircraft below or at the treetop level, just to make us a little harder to spot if some enterprising low-level jet was trying to find us. As we come into the landing zone, it reminds me I love how responsive the Huey is and how it really has a nice ability to get into some tight spots. Usually when we drop off troops, we like to find a spot where we can set down and have the troops sheltered by ground cover. This open area next to the road is perfect. It essentially covers 3 sides, and off-screen across the road are some buildings and a strip of trees that also help cover this area. At this point we've got about 30 minutes till the server restarts, so I already know we're not going to be able to run back and get some squads for another transport sortie. The goal here is to pick up SAR cases as we run across them, and it's not long until we find the first one just north of our position where we've dropped our troops off. Now, picking up downed pilots when the smoke is active is pretty dangerous as it is, but because there are so many aircraft flying around in the area, this is very dangerous. And as I make my approach, I'm keeping an eye out for any aircraft I might notice bearing down on us. Even in the hover, I'm constantly on the lookout for inbound aircraft around me. After a few seconds, we're able to recover the pilot and are on our way outbound to search for more. There are so many downed pilots that as I look around for smoke, I actually find a dot in the field near Kutaisi airfield. There are 2 down pilots in the area, but looking over at Kutaisi, I see some vehicles, and I don't want to chance it that one of them can potentially take me out with some machine guns. The second pilot, if you look closely, is further up the road next to the left of some wreckage. I come in pretty hot here and nearly get into some settling with power, but we avoid it, and very quickly we egress westward now and try and head back to Sanaki. As we head west a couple of miles, I see a flare go off ahead of me, and I see billowing blue smoke start to rise. We're probably half a mile north of where we picked up our first SAR case, so this area is teeming with downed pilots. For this rescue, we're going to veer to the right initially and enter an oval pattern. I like the natural lane between the trees and buildings that leads all the way up to the downed pilot. That will give us some room to slow down and to remain shielded from view while we are most vulnerable. With the power lines ahead of us, we'll do a pedal turn and power out to the west. At this point, we've got about 15 minutes to get back to Sanaki. The flight time should be about 10 minutes, so we've got some wiggle room. On the way out, you'll see tons of aircraft wreckage, and while I'd like to trawl around some more to pick up additional air crews, I really want to get back and be able to return the ones we already have on board. As we travel out further from the front, I ditch my rocket pods to save on the weight. This will help us cruise faster back to Sanaki. After a few minutes of flying, I could see 2 plumes of blue smoke close to Sanaki. I keep tally on it until the plumes disappear. When we get closer to the field, I can make out one downed pilot and immediately go in for the rescue. When we touch down, we get notice that we've returned the first 3 pilots that we were carrying, and now we've picked up this latest pilot. I look down the field for the second pilot, who was the source of the second plume of smoke, but can't find him. We do a quick bunny hop to return the pilot of the newest pickup back to Sanaki as well. Once that is done, we loop around for a spot to land and shut down before the server resets in the next 5 minutes. When you're operating around the airfield in a helicopter, it's important, like the FARP, to look around, and it's also very important to monitor communications. Be mindful of the overhead pattern and be mindful of the approach paths jets might take for landing. Minimize the time it takes to cross the runway path. As we come in to touch down and land for the night, we get the message not long after that tells us the front has moved forward in Red's favor. We didn't get to shoot down helicopters, but we survived in a very dense airspace while getting troops in and also pulling in 4 CSAR cases for the return leg home. It was a very long haul, pulling about 50 nautical miles round trip. Our FARP was 5 sectors from the enemy front, but we were able to still get troops in. We ultimately lost the battle, but as of today, Blue forces are marching on back to Kutaisi, and Campaign 5 drags on. So with that, I want to say thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you ever see me on this server, say hi, and hopefully we can do some troop landings together. Bye!